as an alternative government, values the freedoms of journalists. You know that we have been in the forefront of calling any flagrant violation of the rights of journalists and the media to do their work. We are totally in support of the media. We are having engagement with different media players to try and make sure that we find a solution on how do we, in particular as CCC, in most of our events, so that we make sure that the media is protected, because we bear the political responsibility to make sure that there is an understanding and we agree on the protocols, we agree on the process we must do to make sure that journalists are protected in our program, so that, because remember, when we go into rallies, our rally is not just manned by the security, but also there are youth and leaders that got the responsibility to make sure that they provide security to our venue, and these local young people might not be aware of different members of the media. So we must have a clear engagement with the media so that we strengthen this kind of relationship, we strengthen how we secure the right of journalists to cover our rally. We have no problem. We have even provided platform for the media that castigates us, because we believe that is their constitutional right. We believe that is part of their work, and we've got the political and ethical responsibility to make sure that they do their work without any hindrance. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Ostallos. You speak about winning elections in 2020, but as a political scientist, you are not touching on the transfer of power. Can you speak to that?
Okay.
So what did you win elections?
Thank you very much. I went to school with Rumbo, so she wants to bring my other identity. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Citizens Coalition for Change, but nonetheless, part of our 7 minimum reforms include the last reform that we talk about is power transfer. We believe that that reform must be in the constitution. Like any other jurisdiction in the African continent and the world, there must be a clear stipulated provision in the constitution that defines the role of the winner, the role of the winner, and the role of the loser. Because we think that if it's in the constitution, there is no ambiguity, there must be clarity around transfer of power, and that's a critical reform that we are going to be pushing as the Citizens Coalition for Change, so that there is clarity in terms of what is the role of the judiciary, at what stage shall the swearing in happen, and all the other processes that happen after the transfer of power. So we are very, very critical about that. We think that it must be a critical minimum reform that we think must be resolved and be put in the supreme law of the land, so that there is no ambiguity. Thank you. Yes.
Today marks exactly 3 months since Kala was arrested. What are you going to do as a party?
Okay, thank you very much. I think that you have seen the work that we've done for not just Honorable Scala and Honorable Godfrey Stolen, but also for the Nyatsime 16. We've appealed to all who can to be able to come together so that they resolve this issue, because these champions have become victims of a captured judiciary. We believe that the judiciary must be able not to be a cheerleader on cases of abuse of the law, but they must be able to guarantee the rights of ordinary people, irregardless of where they belong. The law must not be weaponized against political opponents. We read about it in the history of our country. We read about it in the history of oppressive regimes across the world. And we don't think that Zimbabwe, as a constitutional democracy, must be able to continue that particular path. We are going, obviously, or to answer succinctly on that, we've begun an engagement. I'm sure you're going to be reading in the newspapers, engagement with members of the civil society, members of the church, students, and different sections of society around the collective way forward that Zimbabwe must take, particularly in the light of deepening political crisis, which manifests itself through closure of democratic space, weaponization of the law, and of course weaponization of bail itself as a weapon against members of the opposition. You know what, Gajena, who stole funds and is visible, is investigated by state agencies, but what Gajena is working is scot-free. We read in the newspaper that is also requesting his passport so that he can continue with his visits across the world. It's clear that the law is now, in fact, what we see is that there is a law for ZANU-PF and the law for the rest of us. It's an animal farm kingdom, and that must be resolved. And that takes every Zimbabwean to collectively come together so that we resolve this. I have been in prison myself. You have seen members in the rank and file of the alternative coming in and out of the courts. You have seen state prosecutors running hook, line, and sinker to try and make sure that they, you have seen what happened Honorable Joanna Momombe, Cecilia Chimbire, and others. There's a clear, deliberate agenda and attempt to try and scare us, dismember us, and make sure that we demobilize from participating in this democratic struggle. Against all odds, the leadership collective of the Citizens Coalition for Change will remain vigilant and committed to this struggle. And let me say here and now, there is no struggle without bruises, there is no struggle without pain. We committed ourselves, knowing fully well the cost of fighting a vicious authoritarian dictatorship. But we do so with commitment and vigilance, knowing that history will record that when the repressive apparatus of the state turned against us, we never wavered, we never did that. So we continue to fight. And we know very well that our comrades are going to rejoin with their families. We are doing everything necessary to make sure that they get their freedom. Thank you.
Okay, a follow-up to that one. I want to know what happened to more blessing and his remains, because the family said no burial until Job's Gala has been released. So where's the body? Who is in care?
Yeah, that is the tragedy of the crisis in Yatime, because more blessings early when she was murdered, Honorable Job's Gala was appointed by the family to become the official lawyer and the spokesperson of the family. And they have been handling these cases, and we hope that the family might be able to find a way so that they communicate to the world. But we know, as you know, that the family had said we're not going to go ahead with the burial until Honorable Job's Gala, with the family lawyer, is released from prison. We have not had any further shift from the family, and you know that Mo Blessing Ali was our champion, and the family has its own cultural views that we stick to, and we don't want to intervene around that. What we know is that Mo Blessing Ali, may his soul rest in power, is a victim of the state that has turned against its own children, which is a worrying trend. That's why we're making engagement with different regional and international bodies so that we resolve this. We don't believe the next government of this country